And thank you for everyone for joining us this afternoon for this webinar. I'll start off and just telling you and explaining that this is not going to be a typical webinar that we've had in previous sessions. This isn't going to be a presentation on the AfiFeed. I will be showing you straight away from a farm. This is a demo. This is the demo we have in AfiMilk in the company, but this is a demo farm that we downloaded information from Ireland, which has feed. And after consulting with Amir, we decided it will be more efficient and more explainable to show this webinar, to do this webinar straight away on our on AfiFarm, and to show and explain about our feed model. Before I get into the more details and explain about the details a bit on this new model, just some general information that's important to know and remember. Now, I know that most of you, I don't even know, maybe even all of you, have already installed AfiFarm 5.2, 5.3, 5.4, version 5 on your farm. So you're aware of the big changes that this model of feed has gone through in when changing from version 4 to version 5. The biggest change was that we have, I don't like to use the word eliminated, but you don't have the use of triggers like there were in the older version. And when we were designing this new model, what stood in front of us was, first of all, that it should be user-friendly. Again, we want, like in the dashboard, like in everything in AfiFarm 5, we want farmers, everything to be visual and easy to see and easy to implement. And to be, I would even say, I maybe use the word independent. Okay, they can be independent, they can do changes. It's very easy to see reports, and we'll talk a bit about the reports towards the end. So this was one of the ideas when we came out and developed the new feed model in AfiFarm 5. Of course, it takes farmers time to get used to it, and again, every new version that came out, we added on more features, more menus. And I can even tell you that it's also going to happen in our next version in 5.5, adding on a bit more features. And it's important to say that the features are coming from you, the dealers, from your requirements, what you feel needs to be added on or maybe changed or adjusted. And it's important for us to say that it's really great that you give us input and you let us know what is needed, because of course, you know, sometimes it's hard to have for everyone to answer everyone's requirements, but we try our best to fulfill the main requirements. And if there's something that's missing, that we feel that it's important and we feel that it's very needed, especially around the feed model, we keep on adding it on. And we are open to hear every time you have a suggestion or an idea or some kind of request. Please bring it forward to us. So just to remind everyone that when we do an upgrade from version 4 to version 5, it's very important to understand that any information that we had in version 4 on feed is deleted. And when I say deleted, I mean that if we have menus and we have designed menus in version 4 and the farmer has menus in version 4, if we upgrade and we don't save these menus on a Excel file or on the desktop, then we won't have any recall on these menus. So it's important just to remember, and I'm sure you know it, but it's just to remind everyone that we need to save these menus. So later on, when we come to define menus or build menus, new menus in AfiFarm, we can go back and see what are the previous menus that they had on the farm. One more, I would say, issue that it's important to know, and sometimes it's even, I know it bothers, and hopefully In the future, it will change, but for now, all the allocation of menus are done once a day. Okay, and this is important for the farmers to know, or the nutritionist on the farm to know, that when they build a menu or they define a new menu or any changes on the menu, it only occurs the next day. At the begin day, an hour, whenever we've decided, an hour before the first session, this is when the allocation of the menus is sent into the AFI control, and it all happens on the once a day. So, Gonzalo, can you mute, please? Anyway, so like I said, this is just something that we need to remember on the once a day allocation, and changes are always will be that are done today will have an effect on the next day. So like Amir wrote down when he sent you the webinar, I'll dividing it up into two, I won't say two parts, one is a small, one is bigger, but two sections in the software. One here, soon we will go into the AFI control, where we will talk about the parameters, the main parameters, the important parameters that we need to define before starting and building menus in AfiFarm. And the second part, we will talk about AfiFarm, the menus, the options, different programs, methods of programs that we have in AfiFarm. So I will start first of all, and we'll dive into the AFI control. So when we go into the AFI control, we go into the settings and into the configurator. Again, I just want to say, sorry, I didn't say, this isn't a technical session. This is a more general idea, understanding of the AfiFeed module. Just to show you, it's not going to be also an application. It's just going through the model, going through the important sections, I would say, of this feed model. And again, like Amir said, of course, if you have questions, please write them down, and we will answer towards the end of this session. So like I started, we go into the configurator, and of course, once you've ordered a model, the AfiFeed model, you will have an icon here. It looks like, I think it's a fork and knife, where it's written change feed parameters. This will open up, okay, this will open up the feed parameters that we need to start off to define every menu that is going to be related to these parameters. And it's important that we build these parameters and we define these parameters before starting and building menus, because based on the parameters that are here, it will be defined in the menus that we can build. So just to go through the titles or the information that we see, or the important information that we need to change in the parameters or to adjust. So first of all, on top here, we can see the number of sessions. The number of sessions, if we're talking about, of course, an in-parlor feeding, and the feeding is only in the parlor, then the number of sessions is automatically entered based on the sessions that were configured in the configuration part in the session. When you define the number of sessions and the time, then it comes up here automatically. If we're talking about out-of-parlor feeders, here, if you want to build sessions for out-of-parlor feeders, here you can do add on the sessions for out-of-parlor feeders. And as far as I know, and Jason explained to me, if we're talking about out-of-parlor feeders, you can build up to 8 sessions. Okay, so you can add 8 sessions for out-of-parlor feeders. All right, so this gives a lot of options to build different sessions, 8 sessions throughout the day. The second title is what we call animals eating rate. And animals eating rate is the feed that we will, the rate of the feed that we will dispense from the feeders. And this is in grams, meaning that the dispense of the feed from the feeders, the eating rate, in this case is 2,000 grams, which means 2 kilos per minute. This is the dispense rate per minute. So if we want it to feed quickly in a minute, so we put it up to 2,000 or whatever you want to. Okay, so this is what we call the animal's eating rate. The lower parameter here that's written down, okay, is for a carryover. If you want to allow carryover, meaning that if a cow hasn't finished her meal or hasn't finished her daily meal, and we want it to carry over to the next day until the maximum daily amount, then we do allow carryover, okay? But we need to understand that allow carryover isn't only, it's not from daily, okay? That doesn't mean that if the next day it will start over again, it is restricted by the daily max, all right? So she will have a carryover until her daily max, until the maximum amount that was allocated on that day. That is the carryover. Now, once you configure the feeding and you've done the feeding, you will receive, and you've decided and you have added on the number of feed types that you want or that you have, the farmer has on his farm, you will receive it. All of them will automatically come up in this area. So for example, this farm that we're looking at, this farm is in Ireland. He has only one feeder, okay, one type of feed that he's feeding his animals. Here you can change the name and you can change it to whatever you want, put in a name of the supplement or the adjectives, okay, just to show you, okay, we'll call this max feed, for example, and when you've done that and you apply, this will also appear in AfiFarm, and this will be the name of the feed. So I recommend that if you show this to the farmer and he wants to see the different types of feeds and he knows it by name, I think it will be easier for them to remember, especially if they have more than one feeder. If they have more than one feed type, sorry. If it's, you know, there are farmers that have 2, 3, I know in South Africa, there's even a farm with 8 or 6. It's important to put in the name, so it will be easier for the farmer when coming and building his menus to see the feed name next to the amount that he wants to define. So now let's get into some of these parameters that we need to build when starting off, or we need to, which is important to understand and know. The first one is daily max. Now, again, like I said in the beginning, and I probably will be saying this a few times throughout this session, we are looking on a daily amount, okay? In AfiFarm, okay, the allocation is done on a daily amount. So here, when we're talking about daily, it's for the whole day. This is the maximum amount of feed that will be allocated. This is the maximum amount of feed that is allowed to build in a feed menu. Now, what am I saying that is because there could be a situation that you have designed a menu in AfiFarm and you want to give a cow more than 15 kilograms of feed. The system will stop you. The AfiFarm will restrict you. You'll have a red remark coming up and telling you, pay attention, this is higher than the daily max parameter in AfiControl. So it's important that when we do and we decide what is the daily max, the farmer, the nutritionist on the farm, understand that this is the maximum amount of feed that he can decide when he builds his menu that his cows will receive. The daily minimum is exactly the same. In this farm, he's got no daily minimum, so he can even not give anything to his cows, and this is what they will receive. The third parameter, the daily max change that we see here, the daily max change, this is a very important, and I know that a lot of farmer and nutritionists really appreciate this parameter, because the daily max change comes to protect our cows from, I will say, extreme or big changes that happen in menus between a program, if they're moving to a different program or to a different menu. This comes to protect the cow from big changes in the amount of feed that they will receive the next day. So for example, if we have a menu and we have a daily feed of 10 kgs, 10 kilograms, and we want the next day, the cow will receive a menu based on, for example, 5 kilograms, this daily max change will tell the cow, will tell the system, you reduce this amount gradually. Okay, here, for example, it's on 40, which means 400 grams, okay, per day, until they reach the amount that we want. Okay, so she doesn't drop from 10 kilograms to 5. She will drop from 10 down to 9.6, and then going down until she reaches 5. The same as with increasing. Okay, so it's the same amount. It's the same issue with increase. So if she's increasing between menus or decreasing, this will protect them from extreme steps, I would say, and it will make sure that she keeps healthy, and we don't do big changes in the feed menus. The next two parameters, and I think they were added on in 5.3. These are parameters that are only related to out-of-parlor feeders. So whoever's doing in-parlor feeders, this two parameters isn't relevant. But if we have out-of-parlor feeders, these two parameters will help in designing and in, I would say, protecting the cows in feeding of out-of-parlor. So we have two parameters here, one called feed quota time and one called time of quota. Okay, so the time of quota, all right, these values are in hours, meaning that between each session, what is the time we allow the cow to visit the feeder, all right? Because if we want her to be fed throughout the day, but we don't want her to eat all her feed at the beginning of the session, and then until she finishes, she gets no feed, this comes to protect and make sure that she comes on that she can come to the feeder a few times through the session, and she will receive a amount of feed. So time of quota means that this is the time from her first visit until the next time she will receive the next amount. The feed quota time, this is the amount that she will receive in each quota. Meaning that if she came for the first time to the out-of-parlor feeder and she had 4 kilograms of feed, and then she came this after a half an hour and she had another 4 kilograms. She has finished her 8 kilograms of feed. Now she'll have to wait an additional hour and a half. It's based on the first visit until she reaches the next. She can come in and receive feed again. That's why we can adjust these. You can adjust these parameters, but it's more in a way to make sure to try and distribute throughout the whole day with the out-of-parlor feeders, the amount of feed and the time the cow will visit the feeders and receive feed throughout the whole day. Default meal, this is first of all, this is, when we're speaking about default meal or any meal-related parameter, this means a session. Okay, now default meal means that if a cow came to the parlor and she hadn't any feed allocated to her, it was missed, or she came in from a menu that she had no allocation and she came in and she's not allocated any feed, if we add on here to the default meal and we enter an amount, this is the amount she will receive at that session. So this comes to make sure that cows that come in and they don't have any feed, they should receive a default meal, even though there wasn't any feed allocated. So to make sure that cows will be fed even if they don't have any feed allocated. The next two parameters, maximum parlor meal. excuse me, and minimum parlor mill. These are, first of all, parameters that are related to, if, for example, if we have farms that have out of parlor and in parlor, this is where we will define how much is the maximum parlor meal, or how much is the feed that the cow will receive in the parlor, and the rest they will receive out of parlor. Okay, so this is the maximum parlor meal, and the minimum parlor meal means that even though she came into the, even if she comes into the parlor and she has finished her meal outside, or she has reached her meal, I still want to give her a small amount, so at least she'll have something when she's standing in the parlor. So mix maximum parlor meal and minimum parlor meal. The last parameter, which is, I would even say it's not that critical, but it's just so you should know, what we call heifer meal, or cows that aren't milk cows, and you want to feed them in the parlor. Here you can set an amount, and by entering a certain code in the MPC, it will distribute to all animals that are starting in the parlor that have no feed allocated to them. You can give them a set amount of feed. If you want to feed cows or dry cows or heifers in the parlor. Okay, so this is just a general explanation on the, again, on the parameters, and it's important that we start off with the parameters, we explain them to the farmer, we show them these parameters, and we set them up if you do it together with the nutritionist, okay, because they need to know that these are the restrictions that will afterwards have an implement on the feed menus that we'll get into in a minute. I can even say that in some of the cases, I even recommend our farmers to take a screenshot and have it on their desktop, so they can always see, if they want to check and see what the parameters are, they don't need to go into the AFI control and or call you and ask you how we find it and where it is. They have a screenshot of the feed parameters on their desktop, so they can always go in and check and see how their feed parameters, what are the feed parameters, and if they need to change them, then they can change them. But at least they have the information in front of them on the of the feed parameters. Okay, so so this is the AFI control part of our feed model, of our AfiFarm 5 feed model. And now let's dive into the into AfiFarm. All right, and like I said to you in the beginning, this is a demo, so we'll go into it and we'll go try and explain all the options and what we have. And of course, again, if you've got questions, please feel free to ask. So before going in to the feed program, I would say the feed program is divided up into, I would say 3 to 4 methods. All right, 3 to 4 options. One is a program. The program is the main menus, is the general menus. It's menus that cover all the cows in the farm. And this is what we call the program. The second option is a manual. Okay, we can also, and I will show it to you later on, how we can allocate a menu for an individual cow. All right, and this is called manual feeding. In AfiFarm 5.4, we added on also a group feeding, and whoever joined us on our first webinar when we talked about new features in 5.4, we spoke a bit about this and we showed an example, and we will do this together and I will show you how we do this. But this was also a third option that was added on in 5.4. So we have 3 feeding options or methods to design and to use in AfiFarm. So let's start. When we go into the folder list, all right, and we open up the individual feed, here we have our feed programs. I'll just say that also in the shortcuts, we added on the feed program. So if you want to, you can go in through the shortcut, or we can go in through the folder list into the feed programs. Okay, so let's open up the feed programs, and this is what we see, and this is what appears in front of us. So to start off with, in the feed program, it is divided up into three, I would say three programs. Okay, one program is for heifers, one program is for cows that are in the first lactation, and one program is for cows that are in second lactation or above. Those are the options that we have, that there are with the feed program. So we can decide, the farmer can decide to build a program for his heifers, and this is especially in farms that have out-of-parlor feeders in heifer barns, or they want to define a menu for the heifers. This is the section the program they will use. And like I said, we have a program for cows of first lactation and cows for second lactation. In each program, there is a general option. This is the general option. This will be general for all the cows in the first lactation program. But in 5.3, we added on also an option for pregnant cows to define a different program for first lactation cows that are pregnant. And I will show you soon how we do it and what the meaning of this option is. Okay, so we got three programs, and again, in each program, we have two options. So also with the heifers, we have the general and pregnant, first lactation, general and pregnant, and second lactation or above, we have general and pregnant. So let's go down to the second level, I would say, in this option that we see on the program. Here we have a visual graph, okay, of what we are going to define, what menus we're going to build. Here we have the feed in kilograms, and on the bottom, these are the days in milk for each program. Each program is divided up into sections. All right, each section, we have 5 sections, and each section, well, you can define each section based on days in milk. Okay, I'll explain that in a minute, but I'll just show you what we have first of all. So we've got a section that is called for fresh cows, cows that are early lactation, cows that are mid lactation, and cows that are late lactation. And we can also do a menu from here for dry cows, first lactation cows that we've dried. These will be a menu for the dry cows that are first lactation. And like I said in the beginning, like I said beforehand, sorry, each section can be defined by days in milk. All right, so in this farm, the fresh cow here, for example, the fresh cows here are between 0 and 30 days in milk. So, but if the farmer has his fresh cows, or what he calls a fresh cow is different days in milk, all he needs to do is go to this setting here, which is called section settings, and enter the section end days in milk. All right, it's important. This is the section end. So the section ends at 30, but the farmer wants to change it, for example, to 50, because his fresh cows are 50 days in milk. He enters 50, and this straight away changes. There is a second option by standing on the days in milk and hovering and moving it left or right. You can also adjust this section. Now, this is important to know when we're starting to build sections, or we want to work with sections. If we use the fresh cows, the early lactation and the mid lactation section, each of these sections has a section end time. The only section that doesn't have an end time or end days in milk, okay, the section ends with days in milk, is the late lactation section. Now, this is important because if you have a farmer that only wants to use 2 sections or 1 section or only 3 out of the 4 sections, he has to use the late lactation section. Because if we do not build menus or we do not allocate menus for the late lactation, and we don't do it, the mid-lactation section will end at 300 days. And all cows that are more than 300 days in milk will not receive feed. So it's important that in every menu, or when you build a menu, that you always define the late lactation menu, because as you can see, there are no days in milk that are related to the ending of the section. So any cow that is more than 300, you've got cows with 400, 500, 800 days in milk, this will make sure that all cows are allocated a menu and receive a menu, even though they are high, I would say, in days in milk, they will at least be allocated a menu. All right, now once we have decided the days in milk and we built our sections, now we go in and we start allocating and building menus and choosing feed menus for each section. So after we've done the days in milk, we go down, and here we have 5 feed menus, option choose feed menus to use in each section. The first feed menu, before I go and I get into the feed menu, I just want to say, when you design a feed menu, you will receive a line, okay? And this will let you know that this section, you have already defined a menu. Because if you do not enter a menu, then there won't be any line here, and you will know that you haven't built any menu, and these cows in this section will not receive any menu. Okay, so let's start off with these menus. So the first one is none. If you want the cows not to receive anything, you don't want them to receive any feed, you put it on none. So now the cows, the fresh cows, won't receive, will not receive any feed. The second option, it's very simple, is a fixed menu. All right, so we decide, again, remember, we're talking about daily, we're not talking on session. So if on the fixed menu, we enter here the amount of, let's say, for example, 10 kilograms, 10 kgs, and now all the cows that are between 0 and 50 days will receive a fixed menu, a fixed amount of feed that will be for all cows between 0 and 50 days in milk. The third option is what we call target. Here is what we say is if we want to start at a small amount or at a certain amount and build it up gradually until they reach an amount that we want them to be fed, this is what we call target. And for example, this is what this farm has built. He's built a feed menu that they start at 400 grams, and his target is 5 kgs. So his daily change, every day there will be added on another 400 grams, which means once she's added on 400 grams every day and she reaches the target of 5 kgs, this is when it will reach the target, and now she will stay for the rest of her days in milk until she reaches 50 days in milk. She will receive 5 kgs. Just as a recommendation, I can say, or from my experience, when we're defining menus for the fresh cows, I would suggest to start with a fixed or target menu, because we'll soon touch the next menu, which is based on daily average yield. But please remember that a fresh cow that's come into the parlor, we still haven't got a daily average yield, and it takes 5-10 days until we have a daily average yield. So if we start the fresh cows off with a daily average yield, they won't be fed, because there isn't any daily average yield allocated or on the cow's card, and they won't get feed until they have a daily average yield. So my recommendation, suggestion, or again from experience, is to start off with a fixed or target menu, so until she at least passes 10 days, 15 days, and then go on if you want to use a one of the daily average milk menu. So once we've finished, okay, we've built a menu, a target for our fresh cows. Of course, we do save, and now we move on to the next section. What is the next section? We're going to define and build a menu for the early lactation cows. For the early lactation cows, we want to build menus that are from our range menu. When we open up the range menu, it will open up an option of 5 different options to build under range. The most common one, and I would say the most one that was used, is the daily average yield. If we want to build a menu for cows based on their production, okay, and I'll soon explain how we do it, but this is a menu that is based on the production of the cow on her daily average yield. And again, I'm just saying it's important, it's not daily yield, it's daily average yield, okay? Because on a daily yield, it can jump and change, and the changes can be quite big sometimes. In a daily average yield, it's 10-day average, like every average in AfiFarm, so the changes aren't big. And if she went down one day, but she went back the next day, it won't have an impact on her feed allocation. Okay, so the daily average yield is based on production. There's a menu for average weight, daily average fat-corrected milk. And there are a few more, and we won't get into them, but I'm just telling you the most popular one and the one that we mostly use on farms is based on the daily average yield. So we decided to use the daily average yield, and here we stand on the first line, and we can start defining the menus with the nutritionist or with the farm owner manager, and we start to build the limits or the program that we want to use for the early lactation cows based on their average yield. So here he started off, example, with 42 liters, but on my farm, I would like to change, and I would start with the first one is for cows that are under 15 liters of milk. I want to give them, for example, only 4 kgs, okay? After that, my next step, I would say, or my next level I want to go into, cows now, I want to do it for cows that are between 15 and, let's say, 18 or 19 liters. So when we, first of all, the first option is to press on the plus next to each number. And when we do that, it skips in steps until it reaches a number. Now here it's 15 to 18, but I want it to be on 19. And now it's between 15 and 19. And the next step is already set from 19 to, for here, for 22. But again, I can do it from 19, for example, to 20. And that's the way we build the menu for based on production. All right, but let's say I made a mistake, or I want to eliminate or take off a limit. Next to the plus, there is a trash can, a bin, a garbage bin here. You can see a picture, and when you press on that, it takes off and eliminates the last menu, the menu you are standing on. So here between 19 and 20, I want to, 19 and 20, I want to take it off, and now it's gone off. So again, this is where you can erase, I would say, or take off limits or sections, or you can add on. And this is how we build the daily average yield steps, I would say. And you can do it, you know, it's not in half liters. Of course, it's only in full liters, but you can do for every between every amount, between 15 to 16, 16 to 7, you can build as many steps as you want for production in daily average yield. Once I've done that, again, very important that when you finish, you press save, because if you don't, then it will ask you, of course, to save it before you continue to the next level. Mid-lactation cows. Okay, now we've gone down to the next session of mid-lactation cows. Here in this farm, he built a different menu for cows that are in mid-lactation, meaning that cows that are between 100 and 250 days in milk. This is a different menu, all right? But just to show you the last menu option that we have in the feed program, when we go into EB range, mean energy balance range, these are menus based on energy balance. And here we have two menus. One is a menu called fat corrected milk versus weight, and another one calls is yield versus weight. All right, or we call this ideal weight. So these are two options that we can use in our on the farm. And again, you can choose whatever you want. So for the mid lactation, I use the daily average yield. I save it, and now I've got a line showing that we've built a menu, and all the section, all the cows in program, in first lactation program, we have built a menu for all the cows. Now, just to show you an example, if we do pour none and we do save, straight away you can see that the line has disappeared. Okay, the line has disappeared because this section has no menu allocated. So when you open up AfiFarm, when you open up the feed program and you see a section with no line, you will know that the section has no feed allocated to it. So these cows between 50 and 100 will not receive anything. So straight away, we do want them to receive, okay? And I enter, for example, 10 fixed 10 kgs, I do save, and straight away, you get the line showing that this section has already a feed allocated to them. Like I said in the beginning, each section, okay, has a general and a pregnant part section on it, option, another option. So this is a menus. Here we've set menus for all the cows that are first lactation and second lactation and above. Now there is an option for first lactation cows that are pregnant to enter a menu specially for pregnant cows. Cows that are first lactation and they are pregnant. Here we have two periods that we can define, okay, and build menu for pregnant cows, milk cows that are pregnant. All right, so the first thing is that when we go into here, we can see that it's grayed out and we have no menu. So this is, first of all, it's exactly the same as in the previous with the general. Here we have the days, but this isn't days in milk, this is pregnancy days. So first of all, we define what is the pregnancy days. So if I want the pregnancy days to be, for example, 200, all right, so now the first period one, between 30 and 200 pregnant days, this is the section, or this is what I want to define. And once I've done that, I need to enable the section. When I open it, when I click on the enable section, it will turn to on, and now it's opened up all the choices of the menus, the same ones that we had on our general program. So now we can define and build menu for pregnant cows between 30 and 200 days. If we don't, okay, because now you can see what happened when we opened it, they have none, meaning that all cows that are pregnant between 30 and 200 days in milk, 200 pregnancy days, will not receive any menu. So if we want to turn this section off and we want to enable this section, we go on, again, we stand on off on here. When we click, it will open up a message to make sure that you know you're about to disable the feeding section of the pregnant cows, and all animals that will be now according to the general program. Are you sure? I say yes, and now it's eliminated. So what I've done here is we have built a menu of 3 kgs for pregnant cows, 200 days pregnant, which means they're before dry off, and I want them to start dropping gradually from their previous menu, and give them 3 kilograms of feed, okay, daily feed, and these cows before dry off, and they will receive this amount until they've dried off. Also, of course, from here, you can also build a menu for dry cows and close-up, meaning close-up means cows before calving, all right, cows that are very close to calving, usually 2-3 weeks before calving. If we want to give them a menu, we can also do a menu for cows before calving. Okay, so this is just very general explanation on the programs we have, our options we have, the sections we have, and all the menus that you can build for each section. Like I said to you beforehand, or I said to you in the beginning, we have two more methods or two more options for building menus or for allocating menus to the cows. And just to show you two of these options, the first one is a manual feeding. This can be done, we can allocate a manual feeding to cows from any report in AfiFarm. So here I'm taking, for example, the non-specific health report, opening it up. We have 11 cows on this report. And now what do I want to do? I have a sick cow here, let's say cow number 180, and I want her, because she's dropping in production and she's producing less milk, I do not want her to drop also in feed. She's a sick cow. She needs to receive the feed that she wants. So when we stand on the cow, all right, and we click on the right mouse, it opens up all the options that we can do. And here we have an option called manual feed. When we click on this option, it opens up, okay, it opens up a manual feed mode. On this manual feed mode, we have two parts of it. The first part is what we call period, and here we have two periods. One is unlimited, meaning that once we allocate a feed for this individual cow, she will be on that no matter what. She will never return to the program. All her time she will be on the farm. She will have a manual feed mode that we have built. The idea here mainly is to use it for the number of days. So if we have a sick cow and we want her to receive a different menu, okay, for example, for 10 days, so we stand on the area where we can add on the days, we put 10 days, it will show us the date, and now this cow will receive our menu that we will allocate to her for 10 days, and after 10 days, automatically, okay, she will return to the program. So the farmer doesn't have to remember if he removed her or she came back to the feed program. Automatically, when her 10 days are over, she will be allocated to the program where she is meant to be, based on the program that we have built, the general program that we have designed. Now, in each for manual feeding cow, we have the same options that we have on the general program. In addition, we have two more options on this section of the manual feed. One is called freeze and one is called add. Freeze means that, like it sounds, it means freeze the amount that the cow is receiving now. Meaning that if the cow was receiving 2 kgs of feed, it will keep her on that feed for 10 days. Not looking if it's on a yield or any other option in the general program. She will be froze with the last amount of feed for 10 days. The second option is add. If we want to add on to a cow, for a cow, we see a cow, she has a low body condition, or we want to give her a bit more feed, here we can add onto her general program allocation. We can add on to her, for example, we can give her another 3 kgs, and now the cow will receive additional 3 kilograms of feed on top of her menu that we have built in the general program. Okay, so this is an option, and it's a very great one to show and to use for feeding a cow manually and out of the feeding program, so we can treat cows or give cows additional feed if needed or when needed. The third option that was added on in 5.4, and this is what we spoke about also in our first webinar. This is what we call group feeding. When we're talking about group feeding, we now in 5.4 can allocate menus not only on the program, but also for the feed for the groups based on the group, or for the individual group. We can allocate feed, and it's very simple to do, and I'll show you how it's done. We all know the herd view. Where we open up the herd view, we get a list of all the groups we have in AfiFarm. Here he has 5 groups, group 1, 2, 3, 5, and 6. And what we want to do is group number 5, this group, we want them to receive a different feed menu than what they have on the program. So we stand on the feed, on the group, okay, we click on the right mouse, and it opens up all the options, and here we will find manual feed. We open up manual feed, and we can build here, okay, here we can build a menu for the group. All right, so group number 5 on this farm are excluded from the program, and they will receive a menu, a different kind of daily average yield menu for all cows in group 5. We can see there are 77 cows in this group, and all those 77 cows will be, we won't be checking them in the program. They will receive a menu, a group menu, based on the menu that you have designed for that group. Also, when a cow enters into the group, she came from a group that had a program or was on the general program, and she entered into group 5, automatically she will be allocated the group menu. So we don't have to worry that if we put a cow in and we move the cow from one group to group 5, don't have to manually put her in the group or give her a menu. She will be automatically, once she's moved or we've done a group change and she's entered into group number 5, she will receive that menu of the group. So this adds on to give the farmer another option, okay, another option of feeding their cows. So you've got the general program, we've got for the individual cow, and they now have in 5.4 an option to build menus also on a group level. Okay, so these are the 3 types of methods or options that we have. There's one more, and I just don't want to open it on the demo because the report, the ketosis report, in the ketosis report, we've added an option to allocate feed to all cows on the ketosis report. I'm not opening because this it takes a bit of a time to open on this report, but you should understand that when you open the ketosis report, if you have a feed model, there is an option. This was added on in 5.3. There is an option to feed cows that are on this report if they've got AfiLab based on fat and protein ratio, or the risk factors, or both of them, and they can be allocated if we have a liquid feed or we have a feed or energy type of feed, we can allocate it straight away from the ketosis report. So all cows that are on this report, it's the same idea as in the manual feed. You can decide for how many days, and they will receive, any cow that automatically enters into the ketosis report will receive a energy feed or additional feed based on this report. Okay, so that was in general, this is in general an explanation on the feed options or the feed methods that we have. And just to show you that also in addition to the feed program, we also have feed reports, okay, where the farmer can see information and see reports that are related to the feed. If it's an out-of-parlor farm, there is a report of animal visiting at the out-of-parlor feeders. Daily feed consumption is on a group level. So when we open up this report and we want to see it on a group level, and here you will see the percentage. It will give the farmer a very quick and important check to check out the group, to see that the group's received. It's from yesterday, the day before, and 3 days ago, and the week. And here we can see exactly on each group how many animals, how much feed was allocated, how much they consumed, and the percentage of their consumed. Okay, so this is a group report on feed. Feed allocation simulation. This is a very important report. After we have built the menus, okay, and after we have designed all the menus and we want to see the results on each cow, we want to see and check that all cows have a menu. So feed annual allocation simulation will run and check all the cows and assign all the menus that we have built, and give us a report with all the cows that have menus, showing us, okay, the cow number and all the information, if she's on a program or on a manual, what feed program, or is she on, this cow is on second lactation and above, she's in the fresh cows, her menu is a target, and this is what she's going to be allocated. So it's important, after we've defined menus and we've built menus on the feed program or in a group feeding, to go in, do the simulation, and just to see that all cows have a feed menu, because this is what will be tomorrow. Okay, this is what will be sent into Afi control, and this is what will be allocated to the cows the following day. The next report on the feed reports, sorry, just open it up again. Yeah, is the feed consumption progress. This is a report. I just want to I won't open it now, but this is a report that will show us what's happening throughout the day based on sessions. So if we have 2 sessions or 3 sessions, after the first session has finished, we can go in. Sorry, I will open it and show you because it's an important report. It was added on. So we can go in and see what was happening after the first session. We don't have to wait for the day to finish to see what the cows received throughout the day. Here we'll be able to see what was her daily feed, how much she consumed of her daily feed, and in this session, what she has eaten. So consumed. So we go into feed population. Here we have different options to choose. I will go on to group. I want to see, for example, group 1, and to see how much feed they had. So I can see that group number 1, cow number 4, she had 4 kgs allocated. She has consumed 2 kgs, which is 50%. Because we have 2 sessions, she received her 2 kgs in the first session, and we haven't started the second session, but so we haven't got information yet. So with the farmer, after the session has finished, we'll be able to see cows, what feed, how much, and we'll be more in control of what's happening also between the sessions, and not waiting for the end of the day to see this information. And here again, you can go back up to 10 days and see all the information. Sorry. The next report is what we call the fee report. This report will show us a feed report and will give us all the information on the feed report, on what happened, okay, on the farm and the cows that were allocated yesterday and how much feed they received. Again, you can go in and go back 10 days. Like in the previous report, you can do it by group. So again, I want to see group number 1. And here I will get information on group number 1, how much feed was their daily feed, and how much was allocated, and how much they ate. So I can see that she's on the program and her daily feed was 5 kgs, but since we only have one feed, so it will be the same. And she ate 5, so she consumed 100%. The last report that we'll talk about is what we called Feed Today Allocation Report. And this is a very important report to have a look, I would even say on a daily basis. This will show the farmer what is allocated today. What are the cows supposed to receive today? And here he will be able to see, okay? He will be able to see the cow's number, the amount of feed, what program they are, and what they are supposed to be allocated today and eat today in the full day, in the daily allocation. All right, so this is called Feed Today Allocation Report. This is just a very general overview, I would say, of the feed menus, of our feed options, the parameters in AfiControl, giving you an idea on how what we have here on the feed module. And like I said in the beginning, we'll be entering probably more features and more options, but the idea is mainly to give the farmers the option to use this feed module, which is very friendly. I would even say very open for them to see the reports, easy to manage, to do changes, okay? But I won't say insist, but I do think it's important that showing this and doing it together with the nutritionist and getting the nutritionist to know and understand and involved on the feed program will make it even more, I would say, important and efficient. And again, the whole idea is to keep everything simple and user-friendly. So if you've got any questions, please write down or send. And again, I just want to say thank you very much for joining us, for joining me on this session. And please feel free to ask questions.
Okay, thank you, Yoni. Thank you very much. Very interesting. I know for some maybe a little technical, but this is unavoidable, taking in consideration what we're dealing here with. A question here is, if you change a cow or group from program to manual, when will that change happen? Example, wet day on grazing cows, can I put into manual feed to change before milking?
This is what we said in the beginning. You can do it when you do a change of a cow from in the menu, it will only be the next day. Okay, this is our daily day. Once a day, there is an allocation from AfiFarm into the AfiControl. I will say that we are now in discussion, and hopefully we will be able to change it on a session based. It may be in the next version or in the next few versions. It is an option, and it is an important requirement coming from you dealers and from the field, that we want to allow the farmers to have changes on the session based. But for now, the allocation is done once a day, and hopefully in the near future it will be also on a session change. But for now, the only option is that if he does any change on the menu throughout the day, it will only be implemented the next day.
One more thing I like to ask you, if you can emphasize clearly for those that are upgrading, maybe got used to something different in the previous version, people that are upgrading from version 3 and 4 to version 5.4, or people upgrading from 5.2, 5.3 to 5.4. What about all the menus that they already built for themselves in the previous version?
Yeah, so this is very important, and thanks, Amir, to bring it up again, because again, we need to pay attention and to know that any menu that was built in version 3 or version 4, or any trigger, whatever we built in version 3 and version 4 related to feed, and not only the menus, also reports. Okay, if we have reports that are connected to feeding, all of that is deleted and is not relevant, I would say, in version 5.2, 5.3, and 5.4. It's important to remember that when we do an upgrade from version 4 to 5.4, to save these menus, to take a screenshot of these menus or save them on the desktop or in a file. So when they come and we upgrade them to version 5.4, we have the menus in front of us, and we can straight away allocate the menus and build the menus, so the farmer will straight away start feeding his cows. When we upgrade a farm from 5.3 to 5.4, the menus are kept, so there's no need to save them. But if it's a farm on 5.2 and you want to upgrade to 5.4, this is very important to know. It's the same as upgrading from version 4. The menus are not saved. Okay, so when you upgrade a farm from 5.2 to 5.4, this is important to know that the menus are not saved, and you need to take a screenshot of these menus and design them again in version 5.4. But if you upgrade a farm from 5.3 to 5.4, especially a farmer who wants to use the new group feeding, then you will not need to build the menus again or the parameters. Everything is upgraded together with all the information.
Okay, all right. Thank you. I think that was clear. I see that there are no other questions. So thank you very much, Yoni, for the presentation.
My pleasure.
I'm sure that the people who join us today learned a lot. We hope to have a few more presentation webinars like that in the future on the same topic to get a little deeper, if we can, into that. We are creating some videos on how to do some of this stuff that eventually going to be available through our training platform. But as I mentioned in the beginning, this specific webinar is going to be is recorded. We will have him available for everybody on our partner portal.